Welcome back to another episode of Barbecue and Bottles. Today we're going to be making Philly cheesesteaks the authentic way, just like they make them in Philly. So for this recipe, you're just going to need some ribeyes, some sweet onions, hoagie rolls, and cheese whiz. Now you can substitute this for provolone if you want, but this, from a flavor profile, it just really fits that Philly cheesesteak sandwich. So let's jump into this one. Okay, first thing we're gonna do is take our ribeyes here and just chop these up. So we've got these beautiful ribeyes here. You can see they've got some really nice marbling in them. Now what we'd recommend is just sticking these in the freezer for probably an hour to 2 hours before you're slicing into them. That'll just make these firmer steaks, so when you're slicing in, it'll be easier to get really thin slices. And that's really what you're trying to accomplish here, is just getting slices as thin as you possibly can. Now you'll see we've got a lot of fat on these steaks. These are Canadian prime grade steaks. So all that intermuscular fat and tissue, that's just gonna render down through the course of the cook and make for a juicier Philly cheesesteak. You see, we probably could have put these in the freezer a little bit longer. For whatever reason, didn't really seem to freeze up that well for us. It's just making it that much harder to slice off thin pieces here. Now, once you've actually sliced your steak like this, you're gonna wanna cut it into smaller pieces. So come against or perpendicular to the last cuts, just so that you're getting fine squares or cubes here. Now these small pieces are just gonna make it easier when you're biting into your sandwich. So now we've got our steak all chopped up, and this is roughly the size of piece that you're looking for here. So just like that. And again, when this cooks down, it'll render into a nice, small, delicious little morsel. And when you bite into your Philly cheesesteak, you're not gonna be left with large strands of steak. You'll be able to take clean bites. Now for the onion. So just slice into a sweet onion here. Slice off the top, peel off the exterior, and then we're gonna dice these guys. So for dicing, we come in like this. Some horizontal slices, be careful with your fingers. Then we slice down like this, not going all the way through to the root, and then you just carve off slices at the end, and it separates into small little finely diced pieces. So we're at the griddle here. We're just gonna turn this on to medium heat, and that's how we're gonna sear off the onions. So now we're just gonna take a little avocado oil, which is a neutral oil, and it's got a very high smoke point. So we're just gonna put that down there. We'll get that evenly spread out across the griddle. And we'll just get the onions down. So just periodically move these around. We're looking to brown them up and get them nice and translucent. So we're about halfway done on the onions here, so now it's time to start warming up our cheese whiz sauce. So we'll just empty that out into a little pot here on the griddle. And that'll just warm this up, make it a little bit easier to spread on the sandwich. Now just periodically mix your cheese whiz here. You don't want that to burn on the bottom. And again, we're just trying to heat this up to lower the viscosity so that it's a little bit easier to spread on your cheesesteak. We're not quite there yet. So now these guys are done here. You can see they're really nice and brown and translucent. So we're just gonna take these off the grill, put them to the side, and we'll use them later once we sear up the steak. So you can see the viscosity here. It's really getting nice and smooth, and it no longer has the thickness of cheese whiz. So we're just gonna move that over to the side here. Now we'll grab the steak. So the first thing, we're just gonna lower the temperature on the griddle down to low. We wanna sear off this ribeye just nice and low and slow because we don't want to lose any of that moisture or juice that's gonna render out of these guys. Get this spread around the griddle nice and evenly. Now while that steak's searing away, we're just gonna quickly cut into our hoagie rolls. Now these are just regular sub rolls. We picked them up from the grocery store. There's nothing fancy about them. So just cut them open, just like that. So you want to cook this until all these strips are well done. You don't want to see any redness in the steak anymore. So with the steak at this level of doneness, we're just going to put the onions back in here. Now we'll mix this all together. And this is the point that we actually season the steak with salt here. So we're just going in with some fine kosher salt. And the reason we're adding this seasoning at the end is we don't want to lose any moisture out of the steak. Now this would be a bit controversial if you've watched our steak videos in the past here, but we're following the methods from the master cheesesteak makers in Philadelphia. While that's warming up, we're just gonna put the Whiz back on here and we'll get some buns. So we're just gonna quickly toast up 2 buns. Great, our cheese whiz, it's getting nice and runny again. Perfect. So now we're just gonna take our buns off here quickly. Now, for something that might be a little controversial, we're putting whiz straight onto the bun. So be generous here. Get a nice layer of whiz just like that. Now, divide our steak and onion mixture into 2 separate piles, just like this. And we'll get that down. Now I'll do the same with the rest of these buns. Whiz first. Just a nice thin layer like that. And then boom, down right on top of your meat and onions. Now you don't want to use up all your cheese whiz doing this because you're still going to add a little bit more of the whiz as a topper at the end. Perfect. Now we'll put the lid of the griddle on and just let that steam away for a couple seconds to soften up the buns nicely. All right, we've had these steaming away for 2 or 3 minutes. Now, time to build our sandwiches. Just look at that. Beautiful, just look at that. So now we've got a little bit of whiz left over here, and we're just gonna drizzle that over the top. Oh, these are beautiful. They smell so good. You can smell the sweetness from the onions, the rendered beef fat from the ribeye. Absolutely delicious. Now, what we're gonna do, the last little secret here, is we're gonna roll these up like sandwiches. So we're gonna take one of them. Now the sandwich roll is really easy. You just use a square piece of parchment and roll on the diagonal. Should get a couple rolls in here. Then you'll fold in the edges. Beauty. Now we're gonna let these sit like this, and they're gonna steam away a little bit more and just make it feel like that much more of a deli Philly cheesesteak sandwich. Now that these have been steaming away in the parchment paper for about 5 minutes, we're gonna slice into one of these and see how they look on the inside. Oh, just look at that. Ooey gooey perfection. Okay, now, of course, I'm gonna do the taste test here. Now you can just peel back the parchment just like you're in a deli. And now, time to dig in. We'll just let the geese go by here. I'm taking another bite while I wait. That was just absolutely incredible. Really, really juicy. That sandwich, you can get all the juice from the rendering of the marbling that was in that ribeye. You got the sweetness from the onions. Absolutely incredible. I don't know about you. I'd only have a Philly cheesesteak with onions. Let's see if there's a debate down in the comments below on that. But this was absolutely incredible. Really, really easy, start to finish. This was about 15 minutes. This was a great recipe. I'd highly recommend that you try this one with the family. So if you enjoyed this video, give a like below, consider leaving a comment, subscribe to the channel for more of these videos to come. Thanks for tuning in.